No doubt you've grown up as a leader knowing and learning certain things and best practices that you have believed are the truth. I'm here to tell you today that there are three myths that you have probably believed in, that you have probably thought were a best practice, but they are in fact actually hurting your business. So in today's video, I'm going to share what those three myths are and how exactly they're costing you, and also what you should be doing instead. So stick around until the end. The final point will actually blow your mind. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. My name is Sadaf Sheikh, and I have been in human resources for the last 15 plus years, working with leaders at all levels of organizations, big and small. And there are a few key things that I keep hearing over and over again from so-called gurus that are actually hurting your talent strategy. So stick around and let me share what those three myths actually are. Okay, myth number one: hire slow, fire fast. Now, I don't actually have anything against this particular one, except for the hire slow part. The only reason why leaders feel like they need to hire slow and draw out the recruitment process is because either they're not clear on what exactly they're filling the role for, like what business objective they're filling the role for, and the other part of it is why and who their ideal employee actually is. If they don't know who they're looking for, of course the recruitment process, the hiring process is going to be long and drawn out. There are a couple of other reasons why your hiring process may be taking longer than it really needs to. So hiring slow is not a requirement, but one of the other reasons could be that you don't actually know how to assess the candidate in front of you. And so you believe that by having multiple interviews and a long drawn out process that you can be more sure of the person that's in front of you. The other reason why your recruitment process or your hiring process may be taking longer, or why you feel you need to take longer, is because you are not exactly clear on where to find your ideal employee. And so what usually happens is people will have this post and pray method of going out and hiring people. They'll do up a job description, post it on a few job boards, and then wait for somebody to apply. And then when they get a flood of applicants, most of the applicants are not who they actually want in their organization. And so they have to use a lot of different mechanisms. Mostly interviews is what people use to figure out whether that person in front of them is the right person or not. So here's the deal. This is a myth because you don't have to hire slow. If you are clear on what goals that role is going to achieve and you know exactly who you're looking for, you know where you're going to find your ideal employee, and you use the right assessment methods to figure out whether that person in front of you is the right candidate or not. Once you get all four of these right, you don't need to hire slow. In fact, I actually help my clients hire as quickly as 21 days and sometimes a lot less, because we put in mechanisms and systems in place where you don't need to spend weeks and weeks vetting the person in front of you, and you have a system in place where you're constantly looking for your ideal employees and you know exactly where to find them. If you want to hear more about exactly how I do this, there's a link to a training that I'm going to be posting below. You can just click on that link and you'll be signed up for that training. You're put on the wait list for that training. There is more information coming on that soon. Okay, myth number two. This is a myth that floats around a lot, no matter what size of organization, no matter what level the company is recruiting for. And the myth is interviews are king or queen, whatever. Basically, interviews are the ultimate assessment tool for figuring out whether the candidate in front of you is the right person or not. And I'm here to tell you that interviews should be a part of your recruitment, your selection process, but it's a very small part of what exactly is effective for figuring out whether that's the right candidate. So really, having 8 interviews and having your candidate meet with 8 different people, basically every single person that they're going to be interacting with while they're working at your company, is an ineffective use of everybody's time. Believe it or not, having 8 and multiple interviews, and I've seen upwards of 10 interviews for a person coming in at like a senior level, having those many interviews still doesn't guarantee that that person is going to succeed in the role. There are other ways of assessing their success within the organization, and I'm going to share that with you in a second. But I want you to keep in mind that if you feel like you're drawn to this concept of, oh, I just need to bring them in for one more interview, and I want them to meet with one more person, and I want that person's opinion on this candidate, then resist the urge for doing that. Here's what you can do instead. A better way of assessing your candidates is to actually give them assessments that pertain to the job. I did a whole video around this, around why interviews are not the best selection assessment or selection tool for you to figure out whether your candidate is the right person or the right employee. You can check it out here. What I'm trying to say here is that there are assessments that you can give them that actually pertain to the job. So for example, let's say that you are hiring somebody who has to send a lot of emails to your customers. Well, of course, one of the best ways to figure out whether they're going to be effective in their role is not by asking them what types of emails they have sent to previous clients. You can do that. It's not going to give you a great answer. What you can do and what you should do is give them a writing assessment. Give them a scenario and say, this is a typical scenario that you would have to deal with if you were working with us in this role. How would you respond to this client? And give them 10 or 15 minutes to come up with something to write out. I would also caution you against giving this stuff as homework. So where possible, have them do it in front of you. So even if you're on a Zoom call, kind of step away for a few minutes, let them, kind of turn off their video or whatever the case is, and have them type it out. You don't have to be watching them because that can be kind of nerve-wracking, but get them to do it right in front of you. Another assessment that you can give them is an analytical assessment. And if you are hiring like a data analyst for something, give them a bunch of dummy information and say, okay, now make sense of this. What would you tell us from this report? If you're hiring a financial analyst, same thing. Give them a spreadsheet of numbers and say, what story can you come up with these numbers, and tell us what we would put, in a quick executive summary to our board. What are your recommendations? Those are way more effective than going out and asking them, okay, tell us what you would do, because people can spin a yarn of stuff. They truly can. And I'm not saying they do it intentionally or they do it out of malicious intent, but it's better to see firsthand what their work product is actually going to be than just asking them. I had promised you that the last point in today's video is going to blow your mind, and so are you ready for it? Here it goes. Myth number 3 is this notion that you get what you pay for. And as a small business employer, I know that you don't have the same budget that like a big multinational conglomerate would have for their roles. And so how do you attract the right person into your organization? If you believe that you need to pay out big bucks to get top talent into your company, you have been doing recruitment wrong. So in actual fact, you don't need to pay big bucks, and it's a myth that you get what you pay for. Because here's the thing, there are other things that you can tell employees that have a greater value for them than just money. And I know this firsthand, because if you can offer people flexibility, if you can offer people autonomy over their time and their work, if you can offer people a voice in your organization, if you can offer people varied experiences in your company, as opposed to being stuck in a box like they would in a large organization, those things actually matter more for a person than making an extra $10,000 on their paycheck every year. So what we call this in HR terms is something called an employee value proposition. An employee value proposition is largely considered a list of benefits like salary, compensation, and benefits that you give to prospective employees when they apply for a job. But actually, an employee value proposition is exactly that. It's telling employees what they would get, what benefits do they get when they work for your organization. That is not limited to salary and benefits like health insurance and things like that. There is so much more that you as a small business offer your potential employees that you don't market effectively. If you want to know a little bit more around creating an employee value proposition, you can check out this video video here. And also I go through it in a lot more detail in our High Performance Culture Academy program. The link to book a call with me to see if this would be the right fit for you is below. If you need help drafting out your employee value proposition, because we actually take our clients through a whole module around finding those wonderful things that the company does really, really well that nobody else does. We put that into a package for you so that when you're hiring, you can actually talk about all the wonderful things that your company does without ever mentioning money. Okay, so at the beginning of this video, I had said I was going to debunk the 3 myths that are actually costing you great employees. And so let's go through them quickly one by one. You do not need to hire slow and fire fast. Fire fast, maybe. You do not need to hire slow. Actually, when you speed up your recruitment process, you actually have a greater chance of nabbing that person who is highly marketable, who has chosen to apply for your job. Believe that interviews are king, and actually no, interviews are not king, because interviews are only one small aspect of how you can assess a candidate's feasibility in the role themselves. And finally, that you believe you get what you pay for, and that is not true either. You can actually pay less money and get top talent coming into your organization by highlighting all of the wonderful things that you do offer as a small business to these candidates. Okay, I want you to comment below and let me know which one of these myths was surprising and which one actually hit home for you. Put it in the comments below and let's get a conversation started. All right, my friends, that's it for this week. Remember to check out these 2 videos on some more assessment tools that you can use to vet your candidates, and also a little bit around an employee value proposition. Comment below and let me know what else you would like to hear about, whether you want to hear more about these 2 things or these myths, and I will be sure to make more videos around this. Thanks very much and see you next week.